tomorrow is another day. Today is another.
Welcome back, this is Eva and you're watching The Casual Bit. So the killing of top ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is in the news, on the news, but solid proofs are yet to be released. Anyway, to conduct such operations and fulfill military demands, what does a nation require? So in today's video, we will be watching top 5 nations with highest military expenditure in 2018 and 19. But first, what does military expenditure mean? According to SIPRI, Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, military expenditure include all the government spendings on current military forces, activities including salaries and benefits, operational expenses, arms and equipment purchases, military construction, research and development, etc. So according to SIPRI's data, number 5 has been allotted to France with $64 billion of military expenditure, which means contributing 2.3% of its GDP. And when we talk of France, we must take into account NATO. Since France is one of its 29 nations, now you must be wondering, what does it mean? Well, under NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, all of its members have to come for the collective defense when one is in the need. And the classic example of it was seen post 9/11 attack on USA World Trade Center, which also led to Bush's heinous policy of war on terror. Plus, Europe is under the threat of Russia, as we have recently seen the annexation of Crimea by Russia, which might pile up further. So this was about France. On number 4 in the list, we have India with $66.5 billion of military expenditure. That means contributing 2.4% of its GDP. Though we know that India is under the economic slowdown, but since we have possible threats coming from neighboring countries like Pakistan and China, so defense has to be stronger. As we have seen in the starting of the year, Pulwama and a Balakot attack with Pakistan, so clearly tensions are piling up. And if we talk of China, then India has border disputes with China, be it Aksai Chin with Pakistan gifted to China in 1960s. And then we have this Doklam region where a 72-day standoff was held last year between India and China. Later comes this Arunachal Pradesh territory, which China claims is theirs. Now, despite the border dispute, we have other tensions piling up in Indian Ocean. As you can see in the map, the string of pearl. Exactly. This is how China is trying to encircle and increase its power in Indian Ocean, which they believe is expanding their economy, will help them in doing trade and whatnot. So under all such circumstances, India has to have a stronger defense to fight its neighbor, which is quite ironic. To maintain the peace, we should prepare for war. Anyway, at number 3, we have in the list Saudi Arabia with $67.6 billion of military expenditure, contributing 8.8% of its GDP. Well, Saudi Arabia is preparing itself, or say they are modernizing their military equipment, because you can say that they want to maintain their power, they want to maintain their clout in that region. And their possible threats are obviously from Iran. Since 2015, there is this ongoing war that Saudi Arabia is fighting against Houthi rebels in Yemen. And Yemen till now has seen worst of the humanitarian crisis, where Houthi rebels are basically supported by Iran and Saudi Arabia is fighting against Houthi. So you can understand that how Iran and Saudi Arabia are waging a war. Where recently we have seen how Saudi Arabia's oil reserves were being burnt allegedly by Iran. At number 2, we have China with $250 billion of military expenditure, contributing 1.9% of its GDP. And trust me, by the speed China is expanding its military expenditure, modernizing naval, air force, armed force, no other country is doing that rapidly. And why? Well, obviously China is on its China dream, expanding borders, which they have already started doing, as we have seen in the case of India. They are taking over Indian oceans, and also with the help of CPEC, that's China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, they are moving ahead with the notion to increase their trade. Plus, there is this increasing US-China trade war. Well, this is heck of a thing, and China probably is getting ready for another war. Well, coming towards the number one in the list, we have USA, United States of America, with the total spending of $649 billion on military expenditure, contributing approximately 3% of its GDP. So even if we combine next 7 nations, they cannot beat what USA spent on its military. Undoubtedly, this increase was evident after Trump. During Obama administration, the military expenditure was a bit decreased, but as Trump came in 2017 with new weapon procurement deal, defense expenditure increased. And obviously, US has to spend a lot on troops, their training, their deployment, as USA conduct overseas operations and has to look and maintain NATO as well. So USA is definitely the dawn in the list, where many nations import ammunitions, aircrafts, war machines, hypersonic missiles, arsenal, etc. from USA. On the other hand, USA look after many operations, like recently it conducted to let down top ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi. So now putting rest to the video, the only motive was to give a little bit of information, and since it should always be peace that one must talk about, because war is neither good for you, neither good for me, neither good for any one of us. So why do we still strive for war in order to maintain peace? Well, that's the most ironic question according to me. So if you want to add to the people's knowledge, you are free to do it in the comment section below. Hope to see you soon in the next video. Until then, stay woke.